Now, we've had Rick Heller on the show many times because Rick knows what he's talking about. He runs a company called Wello Inc. Wello Inc. Wello is one of the leading manufacturers of non-invasive medical technology, and I think more and more you're going to see this popping up in the various videos you see around the country of people being tested for the coronavirus. He's standing by on the AcuteHearingCenters.com hotline, and Rick, it's always great to have you in. How are you on this glorious Saturday?
I am well. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I know. By the way, those pictures that we see of, particularly from places like China and Japan, of passengers being tested, they hold a device up to the forehead. Is that your company? Is that where we're seeing these things?
No. Our company, you would see a kiosk, and it's completely self-service. Mm-hmm. We just had at LAX, we had one of the people doing that who were screening. I mean, it's an occupational safety hazard that they actually got the coronavirus. So ours is more private. You simply walk up to it in 2 or 3 seconds. You get your core body temperature, and somebody gets alerted if you're over temperature, if you're elevated.
That's amazing. I don't understand why every airport doesn't have that and why every doctor's office, considering they're most of them now are owned by large hospital chains. Virtually every GP in this town, in some way, shape, or form, is beholden to a large hospital chain. I don't know why those things just aren't, one of those duh things. We need to have something like that. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're moving fast. I mean, from a business point of view, we're moving fast, and we're really kind of loading our supply chain, and we're all engaged in whatever we do, whatever we buy, whatever we make during the day for a living with supply chain. And that's the thing that's scary about the vaccines that are coming out, our devices and all that. Will our supply chains hold up? So far, so good.
Yeah. So we hear there's going to be like 4 million test kits dispersed by the federal government, and that's good. I guess you can get diagnosed. Hey, you got the coronavirus, but then what? I mean, there's no preventative vaccine. What does a doctor do once he diagnoses you that you have this thing?
Well, thank God that they're getting these kits out. I mean, these are really essential. Just because just knowing that you have it gives epidemiologists, it gives strategy to our nation, to every nation that are trying to fight this. And the thing that we need to know is this, I believe it's myth, but that's just an opinion, and of a silent spreader. It means that, you and I or anybody could just be, giving this to hundreds of people because we walk around feeling just fine. Mm-hmm. And this comes up with SARS. This was big media attention then. It turned out that we could shut down SARS and extinct it. It comes up with MERS, which is a Middle East respiratory syndrome, which I can't say is extincted, but it's certainly contained. We don't hear about it except an outbreak in Korea. So I think that the testing is just so essential to understanding this and knowing if we're actually walking around, one, positive, and two, giving it to anybody else. I do not believe that people who are incubating the disease are giving it to other people. And those who say they were well when they were positive and gave it to their kids or their family, I think they may have been on some over-the-counter or feel-good drugs or some other things like that. That's my suspicion.
So, and again, to reiterate that, you believe that if we hear, like on the nightly newscast or one of these cable things that I'm fine, but I could be giving this virus to someone and they might then become infected with the coronavirus. You tend to think that's nothing more than hyperbole, right?
I'm suspicious that it could happen as often as it does. And flu has been looked at this way. Yeah. And studies come out just to show that, flu, you're a day before you're contagious, the day after your fever, you're contagious. It's pretty much in sync with what your body is telling you, which is spiking a fever.
What do you think of the government's efforts so far, Rick, in terms of their response to this? They seem to get hip to it. Maybe 10 days ago, and the task force was instituted, and the vice president's in charge of the task force, and there seems to be an accelerated movement to try and find, these test kits and then also get a vaccine that may or may not be available for another year. But what of their response? And did the government, and particularly the administration, drop the ball, in your opinion, and maybe should have been on this earlier than what they were? I think he closed the borders, at least the flights coming in from China, sometime in the middle of January. But was it too late?
No, I mean, that was a good thing to do, and it was a little bit more immediate than, say, the 737 MAX. Shut that program down. But still, I think that the response is there needs to be more money in this research. It was already slashed 2 years ago. And we were very interested in Ebola because, as you know, it's rising up again in Congo. Yeah. So I think it's really a matter of money. These institutions, venerable institutions, NIH, are able to, with more resources, do more work. And that work should lead to the end of the common cold, which, by the way, is a coronavirus in many cases. Yeah,
it's funny. I was listening to someone whom I can't remember on the way into the station today. It was one of the cable news networks I was listening to in my car. And the topic was this virus and how there are two different strands of it. I believe the initials, one is S and one is N. I may be mistaken on that. But there's an aggressive form and there's a passive form, and the thinking was the aggressive form is kind of petering out at this point. Is there any truth to that, or have you heard that?
I've heard that, and these things come out every single day, refuting it, agreeing with it. Even Dr. Fauci from the NIH. I mean, he came out with I was talking about asymptomatic spreading. He said, and I quote, "This is now proven science." And 3 days later, they interviewed the lady who was asymptomatic, and she said, "No, I wasn't asymptomatic. I was totally symptomatic."
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? There's so many talking heads out there, and they're doctors, and no one can seem to agree on anything, whether or not this is going to be pandemic, whether or not we are prepared, whether or not, as you just said, someone who was asymptomatic can give it to someone and they become sick because of it. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and I think that's where a lot of us are having trouble. We can't separate the fact from the fiction. So help us do that here. Rick, what is fact? I mean, just how concerned should we be, and where does that fall with relation to panic?
Well, I cannot quote you the source, but there was an excellent article with physicians in Wuhan who were talking about. I mean, they've been fighting 70,000 cases right now in their little state, big state actually. Yeah. So, and they were talking that most of the mythology they were putting aside. I mean, it's simply it's contagious when you're symptomatic. There are mild cases that they either release or they figure that they don't get to see. They're doing, for some reason, much more and better testing than we are, and I don't understand where we screwed up. But I mean, we're 8 weeks into this right now. Yeah. Knowing about it. So I think we need to, I think we're not obviously beating this, but my God, this is a challenge that we ought to own up to. I mean, we've done it before, and now it's not the country, it's the world. And I'm excited, if there's anything to get excited about, that people are paying attention to their health and to their hygiene, and some people may be running scared and a little bit obsessive, but for the most part, science is actually being listened to now. Yeah. And there's a jump to conclusion, yes. That's not fake. That's just a jump to conclusion. And then, like good science, they reverse that. It's no apology. It's just we learned that what we said before wasn't true. That's a great thing.
Rick Keller's our guest, expert on infectious diseases with a company called WellowInc.com. You and I both know science oftentimes, and I think in this case, and certainly with the flu, is a trailer, not a leader, and a lot of the stuff that we have injected into us, these vaccines that everybody should get in October to prevent the flu, are largely based on research from past years and not necessarily what the flu would have morphed into in this year. This is something I think, or some form of this I think, is going to be with us for a long time. Is there any way you think science can get ahead of the curve and be a leader in this thing, or is it just the nature of the beast that we have to be reactive and not proactive in our science?
Well, our science is actually, the way vaccines are developed, they're really looking at the other hemisphere because, as you know, these are likely to be seasonal. So right now, Australia has a pretty low rate, and it will probably accelerate because they're going into winter as we go into summer. So I think science is going to be able to see and look ahead by looking at Australia as they do with the flu. That's where the flu vaccine is developed from these samples all over. So I think science is going to make us more aware. They're going to get rid of the myths so we don't worry about the wrong things and we pay attention to the right things. This face business is wonderful. And there's a doctor in Ohio, Dr. Sawyer, Henry the Hands, and he has been passionate about not touching the face for, 20 years. And Henry the Hands, I think, .org, I'm not sure. But this is a very important thing. It was just kind of funny watching the CDC, make this statement and declaration like nobody had ever thought of this before.
The president said, and has been saying for a while, that with the warmer weather that this should abate. Is there any truth to that? Is there any truth that when it gets warmer, when we start to get into those early spring days that we normally get into here in the tri-state, where you get temperatures creeping up over 80 degrees, does that necessarily mean this thing is going to abate, or is that myth?
Okay, so it is not myth. It correlates to warmth, but we have models, and all of our models take into account moisture. Because there are beautiful days, in particular Hong Kong, which is subtropical and moist. There's some beautiful days in which a hospital received 100 cases spread by one person. And that was back in the SARS days. And so it was, it was just one of those nice days. And yet, for some reason, the air moisture was extremely low, which gets what's called entrained into the building. And all of a sudden, we find out the virus, and we've known this for probably 20 or 30 years, and there's still a little bit of argument about it. But low humidity, dry indoor air allows a sick person who comes to work to spread to far more. We're talking 10 to 100 times more likely to spread their stuff than on a moist day, let's say about 40 or 50% indoor humidity.
Yeah, well, we got moisture deluxe here in this area of the country in the summertime outside, but you're right, inside, we all want to go inside where the air conditioning is, and invariably that's dry air.
It gets drier, yeah, but there's nothing drier than the winter. I can guarantee you. It's 15% relative humidity indoor in Dallas, and yesterday it was 40% indoor. So this is a day we call a spreading day.
So there may be truth to what he says, right? That when you do get when it gets warmer and it gets more humid, that this thing tends to dissipate. Well, that's what one would hope. Rick, you're at WellowInc.com. I'm going to look for these kiosks popping up at Greater Cincinnati Airport, and when I do, I'm going to say, I know this guy. And I will go into one of those if I'm traveling, have my picture taken, and I'll send it to you. How about that?
Thank you very much.
Well, Rick, it's always great having you on. Thank you.
Likewise. Be well.